Hi everybody, and welcome to the Hort Next Gen 2013 webinar recap. So this is a recap of the workshop we ran in Brisbane, and just going to go very quickly through the tools. So this is just a really quick, I guess, coverage of all the tools again, just to highlight the key points. So let's get started. As you know, the purpose of the workshop in Brisbane was to improve our skills in a range of business and leadership areas. It was about learning from each other, sharing best practice, and building industry networks and alliances and having a bit of fun. I hope you had that fun at the workshop, and I hope you're working on those areas even as we speak outside of the workshop. So as I said to you in Brisbane, the learning starts after the workshop. So in Brisbane, we started talking about the volatile business environment that we work in, and it's picked up by this acronym VUCA, and it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And it comes out of some work done by the US military, and it's now been picked up by the mainstream business leaders to describe the very challenging environment that we're currently in. What does it mean for us? It means that training and development for your managers and for yourselves will move away from, I guess, focusing on behavioural competencies, on very narrow things, into far more complex thinking abilities. And if you think about that, it's because you need to have the ability to address more complex problems. It's also about leadership being spread right throughout the organisation, not just concentrated at the top. And it's about transfer of, I guess, professional development back to the team. Allow the team to learn by doing, but also give them the opportunity to develop their own learning, that sort of stuff. We talked about horizontal and vertical development. Horizontal development is where a problem is clearly defined and there are clear solutions to it, and known techniques, and that training improves that. So things like, brain surgery and those sort of things, you can get better and better with that training. But vertical development is those soft skills. The skills are around problem solving and planning and coaching people, and a lot of the soft skills. And you're going to need those if you're going to be adaptable, flexible, be able to be collaborative and a problem solver, and to help you be self-aware. 3 steps to doing that. First is you've got to, understand there's an issue, and that raise awareness that you need to do things in a different way. You need to unlearn some of your bad habits and be discerning in what you do. Test your new assumptions, experiment, fail if necessary, but learn from them, and then practice the new techniques on real issues. And as I said to you, all the tools and stuff we're going to talk about in this next workshop are tools that you're going to need to practice at least 40 times, because that's what it takes to develop a new habit. All right. So then we talked about some leadership opportunities, and we talked particularly about, I guess, key management frameworks to drive business success. The first of those was this really important model, and it's the backbone of all good planning and problem solving, and it's now, where, and how. And the important thing is spend more time defining where you want to be, and then decide how you're going to get from now to where. But take the time to clearly define the where. So I've just spent the weekend with a client that I've been working with for the last 10 years. We spent 2 days doing some planning. The first day we just spent on refining and making the where even clearer. So we projected forward a bit, we looked at what we've done previously, and we've got some real clarity about where we're going. And then we'll be able to spend the second day working about how we're going to get there. So it's an ongoing process, and it never stops. You'll find the Now Warehouse sits behind a lot of good problem solving and planning tools, and a lot of the Mindshot tools that we're going to discuss as part of the Horticulture, the Next Generation program. Second concept that we talked about was this concept of business improvement stages, and how there are 3 stages. The first of those is the structural stages, and is about structure, and that's about, remember we talked about the P's. You've got your patrons, who are your customers, if you like. So I like to use P's. So we've got patrons. We've got products. We've got pricing stuff to talk about. We've got processes for delivery of those products at those prices. We've then got the people that we need to understand those. We've got to have promotion so we can promote things. And lastly, we've got to make some profit. And so it's about all the financial elements. So we spend most of our time working on those structural elements, thinking about those sort of things. The second and third levels are waste and beliefs, and the size of the triangles gives you an indication of the impact that they will have on your business. Now there's a lot of waste, and it's hidden in our businesses, and it's wasted time, resources, people, all that sort of stuff. We're going to take you through a waste process and in Melbourne the next time we meet. The third and probably the most important thing is about beliefs or culture, and that's about having and making sure that we have all the people in our business aligned in their thinking about where we're heading and what we're doing. It doesn't mean people can't have divergent views, but we need to have some congruity in where we're heading and what we're doing, and getting everybody on the page. I guess the thing is, it takes time, particularly stage 3. Now, they're not things that you need to do concurrently. In series. We can do this in parallel, so we can actually, work on the structure, work on the waste, and work on the beliefs all at the same time, so that we're making sure that we make as maximum progress on this. So it's not like you do structure, then you do waste, then you do beliefs. You work on all 3 at the same time. That's pretty important. The strategic planning model was, I guess, the next key model we talked about. And if you remember this model here, we said we need to start our planning by understanding our competitive advantage. We'll talk about competitive advantage later, but it's what differentiates us in the marketplace. Once we clearly understand that, then we can build a marketing strategy around that. We can then build, once we've got our marketing strategy, we can design an operations strategy that delivers against our marketing strategy. And that might be about delivering at a particular quality, or particular varieties, or particular price points, or whatever. And we can develop a strategy that does that. Operations are supported by our innovation, which can be our R&D, technology, all that sort of strategy. But our people, by our finances, I'm sure you can think of other things that it's sorted by, but they're the big chunks of it if you include those. It's a really important model. Most people fail to start at that point. Too many people start at that operations level, and start to think at that level and get lost in a strategy that's driven by operational issues rather than by what the market is and what differentiates us in the marketplace. All right. Now, we also talked about Simon Sinek's golden circles model, or the Y model. Really important that we understand why we exist. So what's the purpose of your business and why does it exist? Once we understand why, then people buy the why. Remember, people are not going to buy your product if they don't buy the why. So why do you exist? How are you going to deliver that? And then what do you do? Some great examples of that that Simon uses. He talks about Apple, about understanding, whatever we do is about challenging the status quo. How do we do that? We design, beautifully packaged electronic equipment. And what do? We build computers and MP3s and that sort of stuff. The important thing is the why and the how, because that's inside out thinking for most of us. He talked about the structure of the brain replicating this and about the limbic system. And so it's well worth watching that video. We only watched about half the video during the workshop, and there's another half that goes on and talks about the Wright brothers and a little bit about how you use it as part of your competitive advantage. So it's well worth watching and having a look at. Going to push on. We talked about powerful problem-solving techniques. Probably the most useful part of the 2 days. If I'm truthful, you take nothing away, embed these problem-solving tools in everything you do. First problem-solving tool we talked about was a magic wand, which really simple tool. If you had that magic wand with no limitations, what changes would you make to your business or your industry? And you can just list them out and brainstorm, and you come up with a great big list of things. The beauty of this is it's all about telling you what's wrong with the current business. So it's not a visioning tool, and I can't stress this enough. It's not aspirational. It's not what we aspire to. We're just aspiring to fix the current problems. Okay, so the aspirations are we want to grow and double our business, do all these other things. That just tells me we don't. That's what we aspire to. Some of the elements may be in your magic wand, but it's really not an aspirational tool. It's largely telling me what's wrong with your business now, and that's how I use it as a consultant. If I do a magic wand with you, I look at the flip side of all these points and saying that you've got plenty of bad debts. Not everybody's paying on time. Your sales are too low. We probably need a lot more sales. Your small, highly focused sales force means you've probably got a large, unfocused sales force or no sales force. Those sort of things. So that's a very simple problem-solving tool. It's a good one just to get people's heads in the room. Also a good one just to do a brain dump of all the stuff that's really getting to you. We talked about the 4-step problem-solving sequence. This is a sequence that you can use to, I guess, solve about 80% of the problems in your business, your personal life, your industry. And it's a really simple but powerful process. As I mentioned, this is the full process that I would use to solve a very complex problem, and there are some shortcuts that you can take. First one, and we'll go through the tools individually in a minute, but the first step is to mind map the issue. Mind mapping gives you a great coverage of the issue and gets your head in the game. It really gives you an opportunity for everybody to put their information on the table and work to that. One of the key things you need to add in there is that where arm. For when you want to fill out your one-page plan, you're going to need a where arm. So you need to mind map that. It's that where, it's the purpose, it's what are we trying to achieve, that sort of stuff. You got to put into that arm. So that's the only one you must add in. Once you've got your mind map, you can then Prudhoe it. Now remember, Prudhoe is the 80-20 rule. You can Prudhoe it to get your top 3 issues. For each of those issues, we then develop a force field, and force field is probably the most powerful tool in this whole thing. It's not the easiest to use, but it's probably the more powerful. So use your force field, and once you've got your force field on each of the 3 Prudhoe issues, so you do 3 force fields, you can then build it into quite a comprehensive one-page plan. Let's talk about each of those tools. So mind mapping. A tool developed by Tony Buzan. Type mind mapping into Google and you'll be knocked down with a massive amount of information on it. It's quite a simple process, and what it's really about doing is putting the issue in the middle, making sure you brainstorm all the elements off that, and that you work around the circle until you've got good coverage of that issue just by drawing lines. It takes practice, but it's a great tool because it stimulates both the left and right hemispheres of your brain to give you both that logical and creative touch. Like all the tools we're going to talk about, you need to practice it 40 times. So mind mapping is one of the easiest to practice and the easiest to use. Don't fall into the trap of it being the only tool that you use. Prudhoe, we talked about the Prudhoe. That's where 80% of your problems are caused by 20% of your people or your customers or whatever. And likewise, 20% of your profits are created by 80% of your profits created by 20% of your products. So what it really is that I guess relationship between 2 variables, small and a large, and it doesn't have to add up to 100. And in reality, the way we use it here is not so much 80-20. What we want to say is, what are the 3 or 4 things from your mind map? And I say 4 only because some people get all twitchy if I tell them they can only have 3. So 3 things from your mind map that you're really going to focus on and develop a force field for. Okay. Once you've got those 3 things, we need to do a force field. Force fields are a really powerful tool. The first step we need to do with a force field, as you remember from the workshop, is we need to clearly define the problem. We need to clearly define that problem by saying, how do we do something in order to achieve an objective? Okay, so remember that in order to at the end. That gives real power to it. So it takes some time to really clearly define the problem. And once you've done that, then you can start to generate the, I guess, the positive actions that you can take. Put those down here. Now remember, these are positive actions. It's not a pros and cons. It's what are the positive actions and what are the barriers that you're going to take, that you'll run into. So we can brainstorm all the positives. we can then this is a little bit of our sequence, but you can then go through and brainstorm 3 or 4 things that you can do to actually double the impact of all those. You can then brainstorm the barriers. Yep. And likewise, you can then go through and brainstorm 3 or 4 things that you can do to to halve the impact of each of those barriers. You can then go through and Prudhoe your force field and pick your top 3 issues. And then from those top 3 issues, you can then come up with an action plan. Now, that's a long way of doing it, and I find for the majority of my clients that although it's really comprehensive to do it that way, I find most times we're better off just to brainstorm the positives and the barriers. So what are the positive actions we can take? What are the barriers going to get in the way? Prudhoe them, and then work on the 3 actions that are either going to double them if they're a positive or halve them if they're a barrier. Okay, so that's probably the simplest way to do it. Otherwise, you're going to end up sort of brainstorming 20 or 30 actions. If it's a complex problem, again, I would do it the hard way. All right, so that's force field. Probably need to do 3 of those, and then we'll build that into your one-page plan. We're going to talk about one-page plans a little bit later on, but that's the guts of it. If anything, you want to shortcut that methodology, I would just mind map the issue, then force field the issue. If you didn't want to do the Prudhoe and three mind maps, 3 force fields, sorry, I would mind map it and then do 1 force field on the entire issue. So the mind maps to get your head across the concepts and what you're talking about, get other people in there, and then the force field is about problem solving and converting, I guess, your thoughts into actions, into a detailed action plan. Okay, I'm going to push on. We talked about getting a bit of clarity and some personal industry visioning stuff. We talked about a vision, and really important that you start to create that picture of your business going forward. And I like to talk about it as the future landscape, and then I think of those P's, people, products, processes, profits, products, and patrons, which are your customers. So start with those things and work out, what do you really want to see in place in 3 or 4 years' time? What are the concrete things you want to see in place, and start to build that vision, that clear picture of the future. There are numerous ways to do it. You can mind map it. You can do all sorts of stuff. If you go visioning, put visioning into the Mindshot Resource Center, it pops up with how to draw your vision and how to do different ways. You put into Google, you come up with another 1,000 ways of how to do it as well. There's no set way, whatever works for you. You might create a vision board, you might do all sorts of stuff. Business statement, another key tool for defining where you want to be. Remember, we talked about this as saying, righto, what do we provide, who to, how do we do that? So we provide, high quality horticultural products to discerning buyers and consumers by using efficient processes and quality marketing, or great varieties or something like that. So that could be your business statement for your business. Take some time to think it through, because it actually defines the focus that you need to have in your business, so get some clarity around that. It's also worthwhile thinking about the things we don't do. You might remember during the workshop I talked about Chardonnay weekends, how it changed drivers. We didn't do Chardonnay weekends. Well, it's just as important to know what you don't do as it is to know what you do. So business statement, a great tool. We talked about Locus of Control, not really a aware tool, but it often stops people from really focusing on where they want to go. And that's because they see themselves as controlled by external factors. So people controlled by external factors have what we call an external locus of control, and their language is very much about blame and control and a lack of ability to do things. I find that people with a strong internal locus of control take responsibility for their actions. When things go well, when things go bad, they take responsibility for both, and they have very much more control in their business and their life. It's really important that you listen to the people around you and to the voices in your head. Doesn't mean you're schizophrenic, it just means you've got voices in your head. Really important that you listen to those into those voices and the language that you use, and try and turn it around to be positive and I guess helping you focus in the right directions rather than negative language, which will actually only get you more negative stuff. So look to have a positive locus of control. Make sure you spend lots of time with people who have a strong internal locus of control, and avoid those with an external locus of control. Wherever possible, they'll just drag you down. Talked about managing change, and change is an increasing problem. We talk about these VUCA environments. Well, change is a real issue that we need to get our head across. The tool we talked about here was the DVP tool, and a number of you, in the feedback said that's one of the most important tools for you out of the session. I use it a lot. I used it with a client yesterday, and it's around 3 elements. What's your level of dissatisfaction? So how dissatisfied are you with the status quo, or how motivated are you to change? Because if there's no motivation to change, then your chance of getting a change is pretty slim. Second point is the vision. So how clear is the vision? My rule is, unless it's clearly documented and well communicated, you just can't score more than 6 out of 10 in this area. So how clear is your vision of the change, of what it will look like when you're finished, and all that sort of stuff? So get some clarity around that, because if people can't see where you're heading, they won't follow you either. Even if they're dissatisfied, they'll stay where they are because they don't know where they're going. And the last one then is the plan. So we've got a vision for where we want to get, but what's the plan that's going to get us from where we are now to where we want to be? So get that plan really clear, because a large proportion of your team will be people who need to see the entire process before they'll take a step. So basically the model says, if you've got high level of dissatisfaction or motivation, you've got a clear vision for where you're heading, and you've got a strong plan for where you're going, then you've got a far greater chance of actually getting your change. So the way I use this is, just simply score myself in each of these areas and say, where do we need to put our focus? Great tool. Use it a lot. We talked about competitive advantage, and we use that as an issue ranking tool. Competitive advantage is that element of your business that adds value to your customer. So that's column B there. So it's a key success factor, if you like, that adds value to your customer, and that you have the ability to beat the competition with. So it's something where you need to have a reasonably high ability to beat the competitor. So I won't go through the methodology here. You're better off to watch the video on it. But basically, you need to brainstorm the key success factors. You need to understand the value to the customer. You need to understand your current ability to beat the competitor, because they're the high ones. And then you want to pick the ones that you think will have the biggest internal impact in your business, and then you can apply some strategy to actually lift your ability to beat the competitor with it. So your actions are often around lifting the score in column 7, but you want to pick the ones that will have the biggest impact on you and your business. Watch the video in the Mindshot toolbox. If you go into the Mindshot site and in the search area, just put SCA. It'll pull up the video and all the stuff with it. It'll take you through it step by step. Very powerful tool. It's the heart of that strategic planning model. So you do need to understand your competitive advantage and really understand what it is that you do well, that adds maximum value, and that you do way better than the competition. We talked about issue ranking, and in this example, we've used the ability to support our competitive advantage as one of the factors. But ranking issues is really about having 2 or maybe 3 criteria that you're going to rank on. And why 2 or 3? Because often it's not that simple. There's just one criteria that's really straightforward. So other ones that sit in here that we often put in here, we've used what's the opportunity for improvement of this issue, and how likely is it to support our competitive advantage, or what ability does it have to support our competitive advantage? Why do we want to do that? Because we want to pick the issues that we've got the most potential with, but also that supports where we want to go, that supports our strategic focus for our business. Others that I often use are impact on our business and ease of implementation. So ease takes into consideration cost and degree of difficulty. That's another one. So you can use different ones here. to help you rank your issues. All you do is score them, normally out of 10, in their ability to, in each criteria. Add the scores together, pick the ones with the highest score. If you've got too many, you might just Prudhoe them down. If you've got a tie, you might just use the Prudhoe principle to pick the one that if you focused on it would give you 80% of the result. So issue ranking, fantastic tool. Use it when you've got a big list of things and you want to try and get some semblance of order and priority around them. We talked about the Mindshot process, and we talked about this at the start of day 2, and it's a really important process for us in that, in my experience, there's a whole heap of short-term issues. That's the left-hand side of this process that are key issues in the business, and we need to address them, but they're not highly strategic, and they're often the short-term things that we can get our team involved in solving and that sort of stuff. Great to get them involved in that, develop some implementation plans and get moving on them. The other side, the right-hand side, is the long-term side, and there's two, I guess, elements to this. It's about understanding where we want to be and what are the strategies that are going to get us there. Now, the reason why this is something you may not do with the wider team is because a lot of the strategies and options that you're going to look at will be unpalatable to people on the fringe of your business or as part of your team, because it may involve laying off people or headcounts or changing things or selling assets or merging with other organisations, all that sort of stuff. Some of that stuff's quite commercially sensitive, and other bits of it are really quite can be quite disturbing for people, particularly if we're not at the stage of making a decision on them. We're just exploring options and looking at strategies. So be careful about who you engage, who you involve on the right hand side when you're doing it, because it would be quite disturbing for them. The overall process is pretty sound, and we talked about it at the workshop about day 1, just most of the tools we've covered to date. We covered sort of this sort of key issues, where are we now, all that sort of stuff. And day 2 we focus more on strategies and implementation. So let's talk about the tools from day 2. We talked about developing strategies. The tool that I use all the time here is the strategic SWOT analysis. Extremely powerful tool, and I guess it's one of those tools that just takes practice. I use it either by itself, so you can use it across your whole business. You can use it to look at a department of your business, a division of your business, a particular product, a particular person, whatever you want to look at, you can use this about. So really, really powerful tool. Just go quickly over the key points. Got to brainstorm the strengths and the weaknesses. Now remember, these are internal to our business. And what we're looking for here are the strategic strengths and the strategic weaknesses. So you want, 4, 5, 6 points. My rule of thumb is when you get to 7, that you're probably not being strategic enough, and you need to go back and have a look at what you're really putting in there. So strengths and weaknesses, focus on those. Make sure that your strength is just not a weakness. Be quite specific about what is the strength and what is the weakness. On the left-hand side here, we've got opportunities and threats. Now remember, we talked about these were trends. So these were the trends acting on your business, the trends or the factors external to your business that are acting on your business that are going to give rise to opportunity or rise to threats. So they can be things like technology, economics, people movement, government, trends, all that sort of stuff, consumer trends. So the things that spring to mind for horticulture are going to be things like the obesity epidemic, the things like technology about mobile internet and those sorts of things, changing demographics, aging populations, government policies, all that sort of stuff. Threats can be things like the global financial crisis and low cost imports and different things that are here. Often find there's not too many threats, too many real threats to our businesses. 1 or 2 generally. Largely the trends, the external trends acting upon us, give rise to opportunity. Once you've brainstormed the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, we then say, righto, and remember we work with action statements, and we say, righto, what can we do to take advantage of these strengths? how can I use my strengths to overcome my weaknesses? How can we use our strengths to take advantage of these opportunities? How do I use my strengths to overcome my threats? And then lastly, how do we protect our business where weaknesses combines with threats? Okay, so there's a couple of symbols there. The Mindshot video again takes you through that fairly neatly. This is probably the most powerful tool that we discussed in the 2 days. Extremely powerful tool, because it's the tool that really takes you from that now and the now to where you want to be by taking advantage of things. So it's well worth thinking about. Remember, the important thing is you need to have done your where before you do strategic SWOT, because your strengths are relative to where you want to go and your weaknesses are relative to where you want to be. So make sure that you've done at least a simple vision that says I want to double the size of my business in 3 years, or I want to do this, or we want to increase the uptake of this product by X% or whatever, because then that'll make your strengths relevant. We spent a fair bit of time talking about product portfolio analysis, another strategy tool, and the table, I guess, on the left summarizes that fairly neatly. 2 axes: market attractiveness, and that's how attractive is this for a competitor to get into, and you score it, from 0 to 100, low to high. And the other one is business strength. So how strong is this in our business? And you'll remember we had different factors that we looked at that could go into market attractiveness and into business strength. What you do then is we start to talk and say, well, things that are highly attractive to the market but low in business strength are wildcats. And wildcats are, as their name suggests, highly volatile. They can bite you or lick you. They're expensive to look after. They could die at a moment's notice. They're exciting and fun to be around, but they're a wildcat, a wild beast, if you like. Things that then move on and still attractive to the competition, but have strong strength within our business, we call rising stars or stars. And they're things that are on that upward trajectory, still going really well. We're starting to make good money out of them and starting to fit into our business really nicely, but we've got a fair bit of competition around. The third quadrant there in the bottom right hand corner is the cash cow. And a cash cow is something that has great strength in our business and low attractiveness to the competition to get into. And what do we do with a cow? We milk it, we maintain it, we look after it, and most of all, we milk it again, sometimes twice a day if we want to, or if you're European, 3 times a day. The last one's the dog, and the dog is something that's low in business strength and low in market attractiveness. And with a dead dog, what do we need to do? We need to either bury it, or we need to give it the Lazarus treatment and reignite it and relaunch it as a new product, and it'll come back in at that wildcat sort of star area. So it's almost a cyclic thing, if you like. So we start off again. But products that are dogs, we need to do something about. Once we've plotted them, so the right hand sort of diagram there shows you how we plotted things, we can then start to say, righto, where do we want to move things around? And the size of the circles here is indicative of the level of sales in our business. And so if you see here, we've got CD covers growing from a little dot to a big blue dot under the star. CD labels, though, we've moved down from a small dot into a larger dot in the vending up in the cash cow. So we're then going to say, well, what levers do we need to pull and what actions do we need to take if we're going to move things around like we have in this diagram? You can come up then with some action plans to do different things. Very powerful tool, great tool, a lot of fun. You can spend a lot of time working on it and thinking about it. The important thing is just get started. Don't worry about doing it right or wrong. I talked about implementing effective strategies as a leader. And a couple of things here about getting the most out of your people. Remember this business model, it's from Mike Boyle at Banjar. Mike's going to talk to us about sales when we're in Melbourne. Look forward to that, it's a great session. But this one basically says, if a business leader focuses on nothing, they are seen as managing by luck. If the leader focuses on results, they're seen as managing by fear. They focus on activity, they're seen as managing by pressure. But if they focus on building skills, knowledge and behaviours, they're seen as working and managing by development. Now you need to spend some time in results, some time in activity and some time in skills development, and we've given you some rough percentages there. But it's really important that you apply your time evenly. My experience is the guys that spend more of their time coaching people and helping them build and nurture their staff and training their staff and developing their skills, knowledge, and changing their behaviours get far, far better results than the people who just focus on fear and pressure. Okay. In terms of coaching skills, we talked about this coaching matrix. Great tool, one that you just need to keep in the back of your mind when you're talking to people. The key thing to remember about this tool is that it is a context-sensitive tool. So it's task-sensitive. So this might have somebody who's worked for you for 40 years or has 100 years experience doing something. You ask them to do something they haven't done before, then their skill level will be low. Okay? And therefore that moves them around this model. So it's not something I use to look at people in general. This is something I use to look at specific activities or tasks we're looking for people to do. So two axes here. One, level of enthusiasm, and the other one's a level of skill. So if somebody has a low level of enthusiasm and a low level of skill, then we need high level of enthusiasm and low level of skill, we need to instruct them. So we need to give them good instructions and work with them to make sure they understand, but they've got a good level of enthusiasm, so off they go. If they've got low level of skill and low level of enthusiasm, not only do we need to give them good instructions, but we need to supervise them and monitor them closely, because their level of enthusiasm won't encourage them to go that extra mile. If they've got a high level of skill but a low level of enthusiasm, we need to think about how we're going to motivate them, because they need motivation. They know what to do, they just can't be bothered. So we need to think about motivation, and that's about challenging them, incentives, all sorts of different things. The last one is where people are, I guess, high level of skill and a high level of enthusiasm, and that's where we trust them. We give them the job, and we know they're going to be able to do it, and they'll go off and do it in their own way. Now, these things aren't discrete squares; they're more like continuums. So the further you move from left to right, from left to right, the less instruction you give. So you'll give some instruction at the trust level, but not as much as you'd give at the other. And I guess the way I think about it is, as you move up from low to high on the enthusiasm scale, you need to have, move from sort of more motivational stuff to less motivational stuff. Okay? And that's about supervision, motivation management, all that sort of stuff. A great model. Use it. Keep it in the back of your mind when you're talking to people, because if you use it well, you'll get a lot more out of them than you will just by treating them all the same. So think very carefully about it. We talked about productivity and finding an extra 8 hours in every week. And you remember I rebirthed the original business development model that we talked about at the start of this presentation. That I rebirthed that as the time management pyramid. And here I said there are sort of, the three key areas again, which respond to the why, what, how of the golden circles. But, the why at the bottom there is around beliefs or your culture or your attitude, I guess. And it's about saying, why is time management an issue for you? Many of us have done lots of time management training and are still lousy time managers. Is it about your frame of mind? What are you focusing on to get there? The second element is about waste, and what are you doing and when are you doing this? And I think that's really important, that we think about what is it that you do. And the last one then is about structure, and that's about focusing on the tools at your disposal. Are you using them to give you maximum leverage in your business with respect to time? Beliefs, we need to understand why are you not good at time management, or conversely, why are you good and how can you improve it? For me, that's about three things. It's about your attitude, which is about your focus. It's about your work ethic, and it's about your motivation. A fair bit of research to be shown that men in particular want to be really, really busy, and that's a measure of a badge of success if we're really busy, and that often makes us lousy time managers because we expand the time to fill the role. It's an alpha male thing anyway. Health is really important. Diet and exercise are absolutely critical here to keeping in the right frame of mind. And the last one is sleep, and you need 8 hours sleep per night. It's been really interesting. I've been doing that that exercise to improve my sleep, and I've gone from being extremely nocturnal person to now going to bed at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock every night, as opposed to 2 or 3 o'clock every night, and getting that extra 8 hours sleep, far more productive as a result. Talk about waste. What are you doing with your time? Really important that you get your head around this, and it's probably the biggest thing you can do. Once you get your attitude right and all that sort of stuff, great tool. Do a time management audit. You remember I did a time management audit at the workshop, and I showed you that. Spending an enormous amount of time doing things that didn't matter and that I didn't need to do. So it's then a matter of saying, okay, what am I going to do? When you come up with a list of the things that you need to do, and we'll talk about a schedule in a minute, we work through the stop doing matrix. And remember, the stop doing matrix says I've got a list of things that I'm currently doing, activities that I'm doing, all sorts of things. What am I going to stop doing? What am I going to delegate to somebody else inside my business? So who can I delegate to? Who can I outsource it to? So necessarily, can I go external and find somebody with the right skill set to do this? And lastly, can I re-engineer something to take up 10% of the time that it takes me now to do? And it's going to be a combination of these four that you'll need to do. But have a look through what you currently do and apply the stop doing matrix to it and say, what can I stop doing? Listen to a podcast from Harvard Business Review just the other day. They were saying that a similar thing to improve people's productivity, all they got them to do was look forward in their diary and things they had planned and say, can you get out of that? Can you stop doing it? What can you stop doing? How can you delegate it? Doesn't mean you don't get it done, but can you delegate it to other people? So, and they found massive increases in productivity as a result of that. You need to focus on a framework. For me, a daily framework works. For some of you, it might be weekly. I found weekly and monthly frameworks, while they were good, still allowed me to bump things out of the way. I now find that having a daily roster of the 3 or 4 things that I must do in my business every day, and I think about the things in my business. As a consultant, I need to work with clients. I need to do some marketing and sales. I need to do some strategy and development and personal development. And I need to spend some time working with my team like Ray in the Philippines. And I've broken up an 8-hour day into those things. And then, as I normally work 10 hours a day, I've left 2 hours, which I flick around into different things there today. So today I've kept to that schedule pretty closely, and even had a couple of hours off to do some stuff for school holidays with my daughters this morning. So the daily roster is a key thing. Think about what you're going to do, and then go back to the stop doing matrix and say, right, what I'm going to stop doing in order to have this matrix that works really well. We talked about team meetings. Meetings take up an enormous amount of time for most people. I have a pathological hatred for them, and so I'm getting down to I've got people to get down to a system now where we're starting to look at there's sort of 3, maybe 4 meetings that you really need to have with your team. There'll be others you may need to have with other people in the business, but if you're running a team, you should have some sort of weekly team huddle, 5 to 15 minutes, where you discuss what's going on. You then need to have transactional catch-ups with people, with individuals, on a daily or weekly basis, and they're 5 to 10 minutes. Now, it depends on the volatility of your business, how frequently you need to do that, and it'll depend from person to person, their level of, responsibility, where they fit into that coaching matrix, those sort of things, on those particular tasks, as to how frequently you need to do that. Once a month, we used to do this individual assessment, or as I call it, a circuit breaker meeting. And that circuit breaker meeting, it might be monthly, it might be 6 weekly, it probably shouldn't be much longer than that, is where you spend 15 to 20 minutes just discussing where they're up to. So you talk about their individual performance, so how are they performing against KPIs and other things, what's going well for them, what's not going well, what do we need to change in terms of skills, knowledge, and behaviours. 15-minute meeting, no cups of coffee, short, sharp, to the point. If you do that on a regular basis, you'll find that you'll be able to do a performance review in less than 30 minutes once a quarter with them. It covers off the key issues that you just haven't been able to address as part of that circuit breaker individual assessment meeting. They're the key meetings we need to have. In terms of driving effective meetings, I like this tool. This is a sales tool for helping you develop a simple sales call, and Mike Boyle will take you through that in Melbourne. But it's a great tool for actually driving and planning your meetings. Start the meeting by saying the purpose of our meeting is to do this and this and this. The process or the agenda for today is to do this and this and this. The payoff for you being here is that we're going to do X, Y, Z. Think about the payoff. What do you need to get out of this meeting to justify having people sitting around the table? And if you can't, everybody can't log into that payoff, then you've probably got some people there that shouldn't be there, that are just there for communication, and your meetings are just an excuse for poor internal communications. All right, getting the structure right. The third element of of time management. I know what I'm talking about. Don't you worry about that. Getting the structure right, really important. We talked about the Stephen Covey model for setting priorities, and that's about understanding what's urgent and important and what's not urgent and important. And you end up with the 4 quadrants. Quadrant 2 is the most important. Okay, that's stuff that's important but not urgent, and that's all the building relationships, planning, strategy, training, fitness, family, self. Okay, it's all that really important stuff. You need to make time to spend there. My experience is 20% of your time should be on quadrant 2 activities, and that will mean you spend less time in quadrant 1, which is all the bushfires you run around pushing out. So more time in quadrant 2, less time in quadrant 1. And actually, the client I was with today, we were talking about, he was saying he's got one of his managers, and the manager was saying how much less stressful the job's been since they've been doing a few things. And he said, why do you think that is? And he said, because we're spending more time in quadrant 2. So they're spending a lot more time on quadrant 2 activities, getting it planned, less rushing around, and it's less stressful for everyone. Now you can use that model over different time frames, annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly. Make sure you build some quiet time in there for yourself into your daily routine so that you can actually do some quadrant 2 time on the important things that matter. Take consideration of your energy patterns during the day, so make sure you focus on your high priorities during the times when you've got your peaks, your energy peaks. Most people have a peak in the mid-morning, morning to around lunchtime, and then a lull till later in the afternoon when they start to peak again. Make sure you're not doing, you're doing the activities that require lots of concentration that are really important at those times. Okay, simple thing to sort out the priorities, but a really important thing to do. We've talked about a heap of tools to do that. This is Kanban Flow. I also mentioned that I use Trello, and we've moved to using Trello. That's TRELLO.com. Trello, very similar to Kanban Flow, and Ray and I use that to communicate all the time. So it's proving to be a very powerful tool for us. One of the great things on Kanban Flow, though, is this timer that's here. You will find the discipline of having a timer that counts down from 25 minutes and gives you a 5-minute break after every 12 minutes quite seducing, really, and you'll find you'll be far more productive. I was looking at it the other day and I was doing some stuff and realised that I'm counting down, and I remember something. I need to send somebody an email or do something. But I would say, no, I'll do that because there's only 8 minutes to go. I'll do it in 8 minutes time. I've got a 5-minute break. Very powerful that we can do that sort of stuff. Okay, other tools. We talked about getting rid of emails. We've been using Bitrix 24. We may go back to it yet. We're finding Trello's got a little discussion thing in it and probably not the same need for this. But if you've got a distributed team, I'd be certainly having a look at some of these social intranets to see if you can't get some leverage out of those by reducing the volume of email and improving the level of communication, electronic communication with your team around specific issues. There's another one called Hub3C, so HUB3C.com is another one that's worth having a look at. Both of them very powerful. We talked about managing email, getting near the end, guys, so we'll fix it up fairly soon. Email, remember to use rules in Outlook or Mail or whatever it is so that automatically sorts your email into folders and then tells you whether they haven't read the emails in those folders. This way you get all the important stuff, which for me is is up here in the green square, and all the less important stuff, newsletters and jokes and stuff from my uncle, everything else, iPhone apps and everything else, Twitter and other things, are all down in the red. And these are things that I check every day or so, but I try and check my stuff in the green things 3 times a day. Try not to do more than that, otherwise it just distracts you from the other main game. If people are using email as a urgent communication method with you, they're probably using the wrong tool. It's important to be a good time manager that you manage interruptions. So impromptu meetings, when people follow you into your office and want to have a meeting with you, it's important that you take control of that situation and say, yes, I'm happy to talk with you, but I've only got this amount of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and be really clear on that. Or, no, I don't have time to talk to you now. Let's make a time for you to come back for a discussion later. Take control of your diary and your life, and don't be bullied around by people who push their sense of urgency on you. Same with phone calls. Turn the damn things off when you don't need to take calls, and make sure you're not wasting your time with disorganized offices where you can't find anything, and with surfing the web. 30-minute reports. This is Ray and I. Ray and I use this. This is just for me. It's about how you can leverage the technology. So this is an example where we use the LiveScribe pen, which synchronizes with Evernote. I then email that to Ray, my handwritten notes, and Ray struggles very admirably to read my handwriting. I'm not quite how she does it. We dropped that into a template, and Ray had that back to me by the time I get back to the office. So you can use technology like LiveScribe pens and Evernote and iPads or tablets and smartphones to actually communicate and to get better productivity out of your time. And there's just so many tools out there available for doing that. Quickly here, Dropbox is about backing up and using tools. There's GoToMeeting, and which we're using now, VC, all these sort of video conferencing tools. Use those. Evernote's a fantastic tool. Use that as a notebook for recording things. And then there's GoodNotes and Penultimate there, which allow you to write notes on iPads and smartphones and smart tablets and all that sort of stuff. I won't go back into those now. Last thing we talked about was pulling it all together into a one-page plan. And the one-page plan is particularly powerful tool. It allows you to summarize and communicate your thoughts effectively, and that's the whole point of it. Keep the plans in your head if you're the only one that has to have a plan. As soon as you need to discuss it with somebody else or actually have it stored so somebody else can actually pick it up if something happens to you, then my suggestion is you put it into a one-page plan. The one-page plan is like the executive summary, and it's okay to have documentation behind this, and it's okay to have multiple one-page plans. But the important thing is that you discuss where are we now, where do we need to be, and then how we're going to get there. And the important part of that is actually working on the strategies and action plans that are going to summarize how we're going to get there. Yeah. So it's really just pulling it together. Now, we talked about where you populate this from, and where you populate it from is, and if you think about our 4-step problem-solving routine, the now comes from the mind map. Okay, so we mind map the issues in the now, and we summarize them from our mind map, and we put a quick couple of dot points up the top. The where also comes from the mind map. Remember, I got you to do that arm that says, what are we trying to achieve and where are we going? The strategies are the 3 or 4 Prudhoe items, or the 3 or 4 force field topics that we force fielded. They're your strategies. Okay, you might give them a better name than what you had, but they're the strategies. The action plans are the individual actions that you developed in each force field analysis. Okay, which include the who was going to do it and when they were going to do it by. So, if you think about it, you've actually mind mapped the now, mind mapped the where, and then you've used force field to come up with your strategies. So the strategies are your Prudhoe items, which in each Prudhoe item you did a force field which gives you the action plan for each individual one. Very powerful process, very simple, easy to use, easy to communicate. You can have a sheaf of them Remember, you can cascade them down, so you may have another one-page plan that's actually just around sales training or key account management or social media. You can always have one-page plans or one-page plans. Okay. The last thing we talked about was the 5 forces model, and this is by Chris Mason, who set up Mindshot. Chris has spent the last 8 years in a PhD. Really, he talked about if you're going to look at your plan and then say, righto, just run these 5 factors over it. What is your attitude or the attitude of the team that's going to be implementing this to the strategies, to the plan we're going to put in place? So what's your attitude to it? What is the attitude of your tribe or your peer group around you? So that might be the people when you go home, other people in the company, other people in your office, other people in your family. What is their attitude going to be, and how are you going to deal with any negative objections, those sorts of things? Do you have the appropriate skills to implement? Do you have the right resources to implement? And lastly, how are you going to maintain control of the process? Have you built effective controls in there in terms of KPIs and accountability in order to make it happen? Just use it as a quick checklist to run across any plans, and just see where you go with it. And I can see this being really useful for people involved in industry as well. All right, next steps. We talked about the next step. It's a hideous photo, but let's not talk about that. Coaching calls. I've been having a number of coaching calls with people. More than happy to have a coaching call with you. So please send me an email, pick up the phone. It's not very painless. We'll just talk about what you're up to and various activities. See if I can give you some guidance in terms of moving forward on things and just crack the whip on you a little bit if you'd like. Just about to release a webinar series, and I'll email the dates out for that. Get involved in the LinkedIn discussion, participate, share your wins with other people, and get them to answer your questions and help you out. Please encourage others to get onto social media and take advantage of the training offers. You probably will have noticed, I know a number of you've got team members that have signed up, but through how we've offered an extra 100 people can have access to 2 online training courses. So you guys, as part of your the program, get access to all 9 courses, but we've been able to offer an extra 100 people 2 courses, and they need to go to the website and register for those. They just need to be employees of levy-paying horticultural businesses, and they can get on board. We've had 30 or 40 people sign up so far, and getting more coming in each day. So if you've got people in your family or your industry or your local area, neighbours or whatever, that you think would like benefit from doing a bit of the online training, please encourage them to come along. It's all free. That's the other thing. And the last thing is that you guys need to do 2 of those online training courses, certainly by the 31st of December would be good. There are 9 courses there, ranging from business improvement, which is around the tools and processes we've talked about, but a number of people are getting into marketing and sales, or sales performance, or team development, or leadership. Personal improvement's a great one. There's there's different courses there. My advice is get started on one today. When you finish this webinar, don't hang up. Go and have a look at the website, pick a course and get started. You just got to click on it to open it up, and do at least the first 2 modules. Will probably only take you 10 minutes, and you've made a start, and then get stuck into it. Okay, so that's me done. That's a really quick burst for through this I guess through the topics that we've covered today. If I'd like to offer you the chance to ask some questions if you'd like, and probably the best way to do that, if you want to ask a question, put up your hand, or if you don't have a microphone, just type one into the question area. Put up your hand if you've got a microphone, and I can open the mic and you can talk, and other people can hear you. Or if you don't have a microphone, just type a question into the question area, and I'll ask it for you. If you don't have anything to go, then you're quite welcome to head off. If you don't have any questions to ask, and if I bored you enough, then you're quite welcome to head off. So, any questions about anything we've talked about, or even stuff we haven't talked about, you might want to touch on? No questions? Okay. That's all good, guys. There's no questions. If you've got any questions, just email them or pick up the phone. Quite happy to do that and have a good chat with you. Looking forward to catching up with you in Melbourne. 2 pretty intensive days there. The first couple of days here in Brisbane have been what we call our foundational program. So we're going to get a bit more stuck into some of the I guess more technical topics. So we'll do some stuff around a little bit of stuff around finance, some stuff around marketing. We'll bring in James Atkins to talk to you about marketing. We'll bring in Mike Boyle to talk to you about sales, and we'll carry on. We've got a few people interested in coming around and having a field trip on the day after. If you're interested in that and haven't let me know, you might let me know, and I'll see what I can organise, and I'll put an agenda together which we can then discuss as a group for those people who are coming along and see if there's anything else you want to do. Anyway, thank you very much for giving up your time tonight and coming along. I hope it was useful for you. If you've got any questions at all, then please give me a call. If you want to book some time with me, more than happy to do that and help you out in your business. Anyway, guys, good night, and I'll see you in Melbourne in a couple of weeks if I don't see you before.